Hey, going good. We're driving from Montgomery to Nashville and in and out of very severe rain, like monsoon weather. It's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now it's fine, but a minute ago it was like windshield wipers on full and going 20 miles an hour and still can't see the front of the truck. Craziness.
Well, I hope you guys drive safe and make it back all right.
Oh, absolutely. I've been driving a long time. I got this driving thing.
So
Yeah.
I want to welcome you, to Pop Culture with Pat. I just really want to, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to do this again. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I know, yesterday you did a show in Montgomery at the Hank Williams Museum where you performed everything from your classic hits to tracks from 2017's Ruffled Skirts and your new project Odyssey. How did
Yeah,
Odyssey come about?
We did a bit of everything. Yeah.
Okay. How did Odyssey come
So,
about?
how did what, Pat?
How did Odyssey come about?
Oh, well, we had done the Ruffled Skirts record back in 17, actually 16, pardon me, 2016, after the second really terrible flood in Louisiana. And it gave me a real taste for music again. And I think I had convinced myself over a couple of decades that I was finished with music and really didn't need it in my life anymore. And that wound up being untrue because I just was happier with a guitar in my hands than I had been in a very long time. So at least when I planned to do really just one new CD, and that turned into making up for lost time and recording 52 songs for all of 2018. So we've released a song every Tuesday of 2018, all completely independently financed by us, independently produced by us, independently distributed by us. And I've never had more fun. And the reason it's the Odyssey is that these are songs about really little snippets of a life well lived. So these are romantic songs. These are whiskey drinking songs. These are songs of regret. These are songs of grief. These are songs of joy. Just about everything that encompasses a life's experience.
Do you
so
have
I'm loving every minute of it.
Do you have like a favorite track, from the particular the project?
No,
so far?
that's impossible. That's impossible. It's impossible. We're going into the studio again this next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I've got some. I'm excited about all the ones we're going to do, but particularly we've got one called "Devil in the Mirror" that I'm very excited about singing here. I think we cut that one Wednesday, and another one called "Thank God You Do," which is a beautiful love song. So those are the two that are my current ones that I'm most excited to sing.
Okay.
But picking out a favorite track in the Odyssey is kind of like picking out your favorite child.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, but you kind of already answered it, as far as, music wise goes. I know you took, there was a period of time where you hadn't really released anything, and just, what was it that really inspired you to, start releasing new music again?
Well, it was getting into the Ruffled Skirts album after the floods. And what happened is I was sitting in our destroyed house and playing my guitar, and Alicia came in and I put my guitar down. She said, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, "Well, playing the guitar makes me, I pick up the guitar when I am depressed." She says, "No, I didn't ask you why you picked it up. I'm asking you why you put it down." And that little simple question kind of led to the Ruffled Skirts experience, which then really wet my whistle again. forgotten what I'm gonna say a gift. I have really a gift or a skill set at finding or recognizing really exceptionally good songs. And I'm not a writer on these. I'm a co-writer on some of them, but I really know an exceptional song when I hear it. And apparently the folks, the songwriters in Nashville and the musicians as well in Nashville, I'm learning that's been the word on the street for a long time, is that John Schneider really knows an exceptional song when he hears it. And there's a difference between an exceptional song and a great song, and there's a difference between a great song and a good one.
Yep.
And certainly there's a difference between a good one and a bad one. But knowing the difference, and it was Conway Twitty that told me this, knowing the difference between, or being able to hear the difference between a great song and an exceptional song, are where the career artists in any kind of music live. So that's why I'm so excited about this music. Oh, hang on a second, Pat. We got traffic stopped here in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Somebody had an accident. So we're okay.
Okay.
And the case in point, last night we had people at the Hank Williams Theater there laughing, singing along, which was really amazing to me, with these new songs from the Odyssey. So it means they've either purchased this 2 CD set, or they've been listening on Spotify, or they've been watching the videos. Somehow, some way, these folks have gotten a hold of this material, and they were singing along with me. And I was not prepared for that. That was a great experience.
I'll say it must be.
And they were laughing, and they were crying. I mean, real boo-hoo tears at songs like I Hate Cancer, and songs like Two Trains, and crying with joy at songs like a River, a Steve Dorff song. So these songs are really hitting a chord. They're not just foot-tapping songs. There's a couple of those. But these are songs, like I said, they're little snippets of life that people are latching onto. And that really, really makes me, the performer, extremely happy. And I know that we're on the right track.
Let's say it must be something too to have, that kind of response to music that is so new, and that, these people haven't had, a whole lot of time to, digest it, but they know all the words, they're singing along with you.
Yeah. And they haven't been, I underline again, we're totally independent. So we have no, marketing team behind us. It's us. We have no label that's out there force feeding our music to radio stations. It's us. And I drove the other night. I had done a film in Sacramento, California, and flew from Sacramento to Dallas. And then my flight from Dallas to Montgomery was canceled. So I got in a rental car and drove 600 miles.
Oh, wow.
So that I could be on a 3-hour-long interview on the radio in the morning at 6 o'clock. I had to be there at 6 o'clock. I drove all night, and I got there at 5:45. And that's what being an independent artist is about.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it used to be, and it is again. And I'm delighted to be part of it.
I would say, I think being independent versus, being with like a record label, you get to actually, see, all the hard work and stuff, because it's all you. And, you don't have, like you said, anyone behind you. So it's, it's all that hard work that you're putting into it. So I think just the finished product afterwards is just, can, mean a lot more.
So much more rewarding. Yeah. When they were singing along, it's so much more rewarding, because they know that we've spent a lot of money on this. Is 52 songs. This is between 100 and 200,000. This is a house.
Yep.
We have spent a house And we don't have a 30-year mortgage on it. You know, we have spent a house, and because we believe in this music. And another great thing about being independent is we get accurate accounting. Labels do not necessarily give you accurate accounting, Pat. Underline the word never that I didn't say there. But, you know, so now when we sell somebody buys the Odyssey, it's a 2 CD set. It costs $40. It's not cheap, but we spend a lot more than $40 on it.
Yep. Right.
So when they buy the Odyssey and they spend $40, we get 38 of that back. You know, so we are. If they go to CD Baby and they spend 99 cents or $1.99, we get $1.95.
Yep.
Now in the label world, when they do that, you know, we'd be lucky to get 2 cents.
Exactly.
So it's great. Now so far, of course, we spend $10 to make one, and you can't be in that business for a long time.
Yeah.
But just like with any restaurant or any independent spirit, you're opening up a new company. First couple of years, you're going to be upside down, and then hopefully, and the indication to me was definitely last night when people were singing along, you're going to reach that point where all of a sudden you're spending $10 to make 11, and then you're spending 10 to make 12, and 13, and 14, and 15, and then you get to do it again. You get to make another record. And I think I am certain that we are approaching that here in the next 6 months to a year.
I think that just gives, not only you, but I think that also just gives, fans a closer connection to you as well, because they know that, their money is going in to help you, fund these future projects. So I think they also, they develop a closer connection with, the songs and just you yourself.
Yeah. And I hope that they understand that we know how important they are. There's an assumption that because you're on television or because you're on the radio, because you have music out or television shows or whatever, that you're insanely wealthy. And there may have been a time for that, but Alicia and I make our own films. We make our own music, right? We order our own T-shirts and stuff at the store. So we are completely and totally invested in everything that we do. So the fan base, the customer base, is vitally important to us. They're really all we've got. And I don't think that record labels really recognize, I'm not even sure that they even know how important the fan is.
No.
But we certainly do. And I've never really seen record labels acknowledge the importance of a strong fan base. And we do that all the time. So we live in a world now, certainly with Facebook and with social media, that we're able to express that. And I hope they get that. I hope they understand how much John Schneider appreciates them learning words to a song called Toolbox. My God, you could have knocked me over with a feather when they were singing that song back to me last night.
If they don't already, I definitely think, they will. I just want to, I just want to, switch over to, film and television a little bit, right now.
Okay.
You've had quite the illustrious career as an actor with a number of different roles. Can you, just talk about the process you go through when preparing for a new role, and does it ever, change depending on what the role is?
The process has gotten easier and easier over the years. The more you do it, the less you have to sweat it. Especially when doing the haves and have-nots, we have so much dialogue to look at and to, I won't say memorize, because then my people who work with me would laugh. A better word for how I do it is approximate.
Okay.
I approximate dialogue. But I get it kind of right. But the intent is there. So my ability now to remember copious amounts of dialogue because of the haves and have-nots has gotten. I mean, that skill set is so sharp right now because of that show. I never would have believed it possible. Now, as far as preparing for something, I'm a firm believer in that all you really have to do as an actor is believe the situation you're in, believe the person you're talking to, and believe what you're saying. Because if you believe it, there's no acting involved.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't want to act scared. I would rather you scare me. Because, what we do on film lasts forever. I mean, forever. So it has to be believable. It has to be good. It has to be the very best you can be during that half hour of your life. And I don't think in anybody else's job, what you do during your workday lasts forever. I think we're kind of an enigma there. The actor, the television, film actor types. I think it's completely unique to the work place. Sorry, looking at that exit.
That's all right. I would totally
and that can
agree.
be a little daunting.
Yep.
Because I work with some people that say, well, it's a TV movie. It doesn't really matter. No, it matters. It matters because somebody's going to be watching that. You're going to be at a Comic-Con, or you're going to be in a coffee shop, and somebody's going to say, hey, I saw that movie where you were chasing a crocodile and you really suck. And I don't want them to say that. I'd rather them say, hey, I saw this movie. It was great. You were great in this movie. Or worst case scenario is that movie was really awful, but you were great in it. Because your performance is going to last forever. Which is why every stage performance matters too. You can't just kind of blow off any circumstance, any performance you're doing, whether it's on stage as an actor or on stage as a performer or in front of a camera as an actor. Everything is the most important thing you have ever done and will ever do. So do it right, because it's not going away, and it will come back and haunt you.
And speaking of made for TV like films, I actually kind of ties into. I had a fan question from Daryl, and he actually, he loves Night of the Twisters, and he just wanted you to talk about, how that project came about and what the experience was like filming it.
It's so interesting. People just lately, it must be because people who were 6, 7, and 8 years old when that movie first came out have rediscovered it or something.
Yep.
Because I get asked about Night of the Twisters a couple of times a week. It was a fantastic movie. We shot it up in Toronto, Canada. And it was the first time I played a dad. And I remember he's in that movie. And I remember saying to his mom, because Devin, I think, was maybe 13 or 14 at that point, that this is a real milestone for me because I've never played a father before. I've always been the son. And even the younger cousin, certainly on Dukes and things. So that was a real milestone for me. We were in a beautiful little town outside of Toronto. I can't remember the name of it, but the people were fantastic. The set design was great because the tornadoes supposedly had come through and hit every other house in this little town in Kansas, and then turned around and came back, which was actually a true story about a very severe weather pattern that came through this part of Kansas.
Yeah.
And I think it was so interesting to me as I look back that was also my first foray into playing a guy from Kansas who lived on a farm. And then later I would be Jonathan Kent, a guy from Kansas who lived on a farm. And so I loved it. And it was the same year that I guess it was Spielberg had Twister was out.
I actually didn't realize. Yeah,
and I think our movie was much better. The script was better.
Yep.
Of course, Twister had they had more a bigger budget just for their visual effects than we had for our whole film.
Yep.
Actually, they probably had a bigger budget for their craft service than we had for our whole film. But ours was a better script. And case in point, people are talking about Night of the Twisters, and they're not talking about Twister.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it was a really truly great film. I don't know if it's on DVD, but it might be. I used to see it on VHS.
Yeah, no, I did find a copy a couple years back now of I found Night of the Twisters. It was at Newberry Comics, and I was like, oh wow, I have to pick this up.
Oh, cool. Good. I'm trying to get some for the store. There's something about that movie right now that seems to be hitting a chord with a certain age group. So
that's interesting. Well,
yeah.
Speaking of fathers from Kansas, and you talked about it, Smallville. That was one of my favorite shows. Kind of growing up. Can you how did you get the role of Jonathan Kent? I remember reading somewhere that you were a little apprehensive about it at first, just because of the character of Superman and them, Hollywood messing that up, a couple times.
Yeah, I thought Superman was pretty much done. And I was a fan of the black and white one, the George Reeves one, which I guess did eventually turn to color. But I didn't think they needed to do that again. And what I heard was that the creators of Smallville, Al Gough and Hills Millar, were Dukes fans, and they really wanted to meet me for it. They really wanted me to come in. And I had said no at first because I thought it was just kind of a waste of time. And remember, none of the Spider-Man hadn't happened yet. Marvel hadn't had a resurgence. Stan Lee was still, at that point, was trying to gain interest in his catalog. So none of that had happened yet. So Smallville was way ahead of that whole thing. And in fact, I think Smallville is one of the major forces behind the whole resurgence in the superhero franchise, all the superhero franchises, to include Deadpool. So word came to me, look, just read the script. Would you read the pilot? And I love to read. I love to write. So I said, sure, I'll read it. But, I can't imagine it's going to be anything other than some hokey superhero thing. And I got about 10 pages into the pilot of Smallville, and it was the best thing I'd ever read. And it had wonderful, wonderful ways to explain why Clark was goofy around Lana, because she had a medallion around her neck that was actually made of the meteor that killed her parents that was kryptonite. So that's why he was goofy and kind of falling over and dropped books and things. And I thought, damn, that's clever. So I read the whole thing, and then I had a complete change. It was like, when can I go meet these guys? I've got to tell them what an amazing thing they've done here, and I would love to be part of it. So I went and met with them, and then I had to read for it. They don't just give you something; you got to read for the network and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I did, but I couldn't wait. It was like that. But I knew as soon as I read it that it was for me. Kind of like when I read the first episode of Dukes of Hazzard. I was only 18, but I thought, oh, okay, this is it. This is the thing that's going to catapult me into stardom. They obviously wrote this specifically for me, and there's nobody else that's even going to be up for it. And that turned out to be true. even though there were thousands of people up for it, they were inconsequential to me. and I don't say that in a bragging way. I say that in a what's the expression? You know that you know when you know. There's some saying like that where you see something and you go, "Oh, that's mine." Whether it's a house or a car or a relationship, it's like, what's the old thing? I could have had a V8. You slap yourself on the forehead and go, "Oh, this is for me. I get it." Well, that happened with Dukes, it happened with Smallville, and it happened with the haves and have-nots. So the three most important TV opportunities in my life, I felt exactly the same way about all of them. I had to audition for all of them, and I had to win those roles. I had to work my ass off to get those roles and to keep them. But I knew they were mine when I read the first couple of pages.
Now, you mentioned that, Smallville being kind of, you could say almost like the godfather of, modern superheroes in television and film. Now characters, you have like Green Arrow having their own show, Flash having their own shows. What was it, do you think, like about Smallville, that was so special about it and, kind of was, like you said, at the forefront of this superhero craze?
The single major difference between Smallville and everything it had been done before it, was that it was based in reality. The whole notion of a child being catapulted through space and time and landing in a farm was completely believable. It wasn't fantastic in any way. And a lot of that had to do with the way Miles and Al wrote Jonathan and Martha. We were people with a farm. We had cows to feed. We had bills to pay, very much like Dukes of Hazzard.
Yep.
I think people still believe that the General Lee can fly through the air and land on the ground and come out unscathed because Uncle Jesse believed it. And I think they believed that the young man who was to become Clark Kent was, in fact, a special needs child raised by Martha and Jonathan Kent to be the very best human being that he could possibly be. And that, because then you move a little bit ahead in time and look at the first Spider-Man and that suit that he sewed together and made into the Spider-Man wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Totally rooted in a believable reality before it got fantastic.
Exactly.
And that is Smallville. That was Miles and Al that did that. And all of a sudden you're looking at Batman. You're looking at the Batman. And the Batman, we start learning about what? About Batman's dark past and about what fuels his anger and fuels his difference and fuels his desire to do that which is right according to him. And again, Miles and Al didn't write that, but they inspired it because now all of a sudden Batman is believable. So I think I love that you said how you put that. Smallville is the godfather of all believable superheroes. And now we've got Deadpool. Deadpool is a pissed off, narcissistic bastard. Anti-hero, but totally based in reality at the bar and the sign up on the wall and all this kind of stuff. Again, I think you can track that to the reason why Superman has an S on his chest is because Clark Kent was knocked out by kryptonite and tied to a post, to a cross in the middle of a field, in a cornfield in Smallville, Kansas. And just as they've done year after year, tradition at Smallville High was to put somebody on that cross and put a red S on their chest, which stood for Smallville, not for Superman.
Yep.
And what genius that was.
There were several different.
I think everybody has caught on to that, and I think that's why it works. The ones that don't work that well, like the Hulk, they didn't quite make it believable.
Yeah.
The television show made it believable. Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno show was very believable. But I think the Hulk movies fell into the CGI trap.
Yeah, it's not grounded in that, like, you know, some sort of like reality.
It'll come back. Yeah. Yep. And which is hard to do, but if you do it, your franchise will last forever. They just didn't do it.
Now, have you?
Now, Fantastic Four seems to work, but I've never actually heard somebody come out of a Fantastic Four movie and said that was incredible. You know, it was like people will go to that, and I've heard people at different Comic Cons say, "Yeah, I know it's going to suck, but I got to see it." I said, "Well, why?" If you think it's going to suck, now it might not. It might be great. I haven't actually seen any of the Fantastic Four stuff, but you know, why are you going to go to something that you think sucks? And I'd like to figure out how to do that. I'd like to figure out how to get people to buy my movies that they think are going to suck, and then surprise them that they don't. But I haven't figured that out yet.
Well, have you, you know, with the show being done now, you know, have you kept in touch with anyone from the Smallville cast?
I've been in touch a little bit with Michael Rosenbaum, and we have a couple of Comic Cons coming up where Tom Welling and Michael and I will be together.
Okay.
So that's going to be fun. I've not seen Tom Welling since we finished our last episode.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is kind of sad.
Yeah. I know he wasn't doing a lot of, he seems to be doing more of these, you know, Comic Cons and conventions. One of the Comic Cons, I believe it was, you know, Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum. And then I also read recently that, you know, Kristen and Krawick they've all expressed interest in doing like a reunion projects of sorts, possibly like an animated show. Is that something that, you know, if the opportunity came up, that would interest you?
Oh, sure. I'd love to revisit Smallville. But, you know, they killed me, so I'm not sure how they do that. But I'm sure they'd figure out some way.
Oh, yeah. I'll say.
Like in season 10 was great.
Yep.
And people say, well, you know, Pa Candy's got to die. And I said, well, I don't know. Jimmy Olsen, I think they killed Jimmy Olsen in Smallville. He didn't have to die.
I say, where there's a will, there's a way.
Exactly. Yep. I love that they brought Jonathan Kent back in season 10. And I especially love that I got to hand Jonathan Kent gets to hand the suit over to Clark.
Yeah.
And okay his moving from Clark Kent into Superman. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think that just makes sense, and I mean it's only right that, you know, Jonathan was the one to do that. Yeah.
Yep. I thought that was because it shouldn't be Jor-El. It shouldn't be that. It should be, you know, Jonathan raised him, so I love that part of the whole legend.
And as far as just, I know Tom also expressed interest in possibly doing like an appearance on The Flash. Is there any chance that we see John Schneider on a show like either The Flash, Green Arrow, or, you know, one of those other superhero
Nobody has
shows?
called me. Nobody's called me about that. Of course, I got rid of all agents and a couple of years ago. So they know where to find me. They can find me on Facebook, John Schneider Studios on Facebook, like, you know, everybody else finds everybody else. But no, there hadn't been any mention. They mentioned me doing Supergirl or something. There was a call about doing Supergirl, but I was off somewhere. I was booked doing a concert, I think.
Okay.
So maybe that'll come back. But I have no. I'd love to. I'm all about that because, like I said, I really think Smallville is one of the major forces behind this whole resurgence. So I'd love to do another role in something like that. I'd let Jonathan back. That, you know, in some way.
That'd be great.
He was. What a great character. Great character. I think possibly the best father figure character on television. I mean,
I would agree.
Wonderful.
Another role that you're obviously very well known for, Bo on the Dukes of Hazzard. It continues to live on in the hearts of all of its fans. Hollywood, they attempted to remake it, but kind of failed to match the success and heart of like the original TV show. Why do you think that is?
Because it was irreverent. The Dukes was never irreverent. The television show was not an irreverent show, and that movie was just trash. And I'm not a prude. I don't dislike. I love the Wedding Crashers.
Yep.
But Dukes of Hazzard should not have been anything along those lines. I love Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, all that stuff. I think they're great. I love to laugh that hard. But that's not what Dukes of Hazzard was. And people seem to get Dukes of Hazzard confused with the Beverly Hillbillies. And I love the Beverly Hillbillies, but when you had Jethro and Ellie Mae out of the country, when they were out of their element, they were a little naive and a little foolish, and it was funny. But that's not what the Dukes were. Whenever the Dukes went into the city, when we went into Atlanta, we were so based in reality again that it was our country smarts. I think they called it our country smarts enabled us to shuck and jive the city folks. So we were never a fish out of water, even when we went into the city in the television show. But in the movie, they were just idiots, kind of slacker, fool, redneck, moronic, immoral fools. Which, I mean, they could not possibly. The only thing they got right in that movie was the car, and that was because I loaned them mine so that they could copy it. So yeah, it was an atrocity on every level, I thought. And obviously people felt the same way, and they could have had a long running franchise with that film had they gotten it right.
Yeah.
But not to say it's easy to get it right. It's hard to get it right. Dukes was a very complicated mixture of lawlessness and justice and morality and family and community, and very little sexuality at all, at least not intentional sexuality. And Catherine Bach, our Daisy Duke, you never got the impression that she thought she was even pretty.
Yeah.
Which made her even more beautiful. And Bo and Luke, we never thought we were the hunky guys on a television show. I mean, we had one great scene where someone had stolen the General Lee, and we're actually standing out naked in front of trying to take some clothes off of a neighbor's clothesline. And the woman yells at us with a shotgun in front of the line, something about, never been so embarrassed as you can stand naked out in some woman's yard and she doesn't even notice or care. So we were kind of self-deprivating, I think that's the word, self-deprivating humor, and never thought we were sex symbols in any regard. And not so in the movie. In the movie, they just tried to turn it into some sort of like Snap-on tool calendar, and it was awful.
Almost like it could almost say, in a way, I guess, like almost cartoon characters of what the original characters were like. Yeah,
and it was a parody, and a like potty humor parody of the Dukes of Hazzard, and that's too bad. Because the Dukes, obviously, even though TV Land took it off, I mean, people are finding it. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to show it. We'll find it anyway. We'll buy the DVD. We'll watch it now on Amazon Prime. You cannot get rid of the Dukes of Hazzard, no matter how hard you try. And I don't know why you would. Everywhere I go, white people, black people, brown people, yellow people, blue people, everybody loves the Dukes of Hazzard.
And that's just a testament to its
young
sting.
People, like brand new kids, 6 and 7 years old, are loving the Dukes of Hazzard. From every ethnic background, every level of finance. I mean, rich people love the Dukes, poor people love the Dukes. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to me.
Again, I think it's one of those things where no matter who you are, it's just one of those shows or projects where you can find, a little bit about yourself and, different characters, and just part of that, that relatability.
Everything, they got everything right in Dukes. And it's great. I mean, it's been 40 years, Pat. People are still watching it.
That's just testament to its staying power.
It still matters. After 40 years, the Dukes of Hazzard still matters.
Do you have?
And even to this crowd, this generation that nobody can quite figure out in marketing world, marketing land, the millennial crowd. Why is that guy on the wrong side of the road? Sorry. They love the Dukes of Hazzard.
Now,
and,
do you have...
bell bottoms are gone, and frisbees are gone, and all kinds of things are gone we never thought would go away. But the Dukes of Hazzard has not left us.
Do you have like any particular favorite episodes that come to mind? I know you mentioned that particular scene, but is there any particular episodes, and just like how long did each episode take?
I wrote and directed the last episode. That's a favorite of mine.
Okay.
Called Opening Night of the Boar's Nest. Roscoe makes Boss Hogg disappear and cries because he thinks he's lost his little fat buddy forever. And it was really, really quite wonderful. Jimmy Best did a great job. Short of that, there's one that seems to be almost everybody's favorite, called The Ghost of General Lee. Great episode. Then we had a 2-hour one called Carnival of Thrills, where we jumped the 32 parked cars. I love that. Working with a bunch of great actors in that. And we were up against I remember this very well because I'm a big Redford Newman fan, and we were up against the network premiere of The Sting. Our 2-hour episode was up against that, and we beat it nearly to death in the ratings. So
that must have been pretty.
Well, Patton Schneider beat Redford Newman in the network premiere of The Sting, and that was a milestone for me.
I say that must have been pretty wild.
Oh yeah.
I also got a couple more fan questions, and these are regarding Dukes of Hazzard. I have Rob Scher, who he just wants to know: did you ever get to take the generally out for joyrides around the set when not filming?
Always, every day. It's why I was so good at it. Why I was so familiar with how to throw that car around was because I did that all the time. And it was a different, far more innocent age then. I would fool around Warner Brothers, and the guards would say, "Oh, John's just working on his car, working on his skills."
So did you get to...
Okay, I'm sorry, Pat. I got about 5 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah, it's no problem.
I just got the word.
No problem.
So I did. I got to drive the car, but I didn't jump it. I didn't jump the car because, they break when that happens. Contrary to popular belief, the cars actually break.
Well, I just wanted to, touch on, John Schneider Studios real quick. I know you mentioned,
cool.
How did that kind of come about, and, what kind of projects are you working on right now?
Well, I've always wanted to be at the helm of the stories I tell, whether they're through music or through movies. So I had was having the last of our kids went off to college, and was not particularly happily married. So I ran off to with my dog to move to Louisiana and give a try at raising money to do a movie. And I'd worked in Louisiana a couple of times before and found it to be very, very film friendly. So I'd written this horror comedy called Smothered and managed to raise the money to do that. It starred Kane Hodder from Friday the 13th and Don Shanks from Halloween and Bill Moseley, who's from Rob Zombie's Halloween and a bunch of things. He plays a guy named Chop Top. So I put all these horror icons together in a horror comedy. And in location scouting, found this piece of property, 58 acres, that used to be a summer camp. For like 50 years, it was a summer camp. So it had a bunch of great little outbuildings and a couple of old houses that were built in 1910. And it had a river and a lake and a swamp and a hill and bamboo forest and all kinds of really great stuff that was very cinematic. So I had to have it. I fell in love with it. And I purchased that piece of property, and that whole thing, 58 acres, cost less than it cost to build a pool and a pool house in Agora Hills, California, where I had been like 3 years prior. So I started John Schneider Studios, and then after Smothered was done, I met Alicia, who came to Atlanta to try to hire me to do a movie she was doing. And we did this movie called Hate Crime and got along so well and spoke the same language and had a very similar dream. And we've been working together and together ever since. We've made, including Hate Crime, we've made 7 films. And she's the one that said, "Don't put the guitar down, let's start making music." So it's been quite a remarkable thing. We both have a similar dream. We both have a toolbox full of tools, but very few of them are the same tool. So what we like to say is if 2 of us are the same, then one of us is unnecessary. So we've been we are truly the team to beat. Fearlessly going into not only the financing and production of these films and music, but into the manufacturing and distribution and sales of all of this as well. And mark my words, one of these days, it's not going to be that far off. You're going to be saying, "Yeah, I talked to him when he was spending $10 to make one, and now look at him."
I don't doubt that.
So it's I expect it to happen any minute because we work so hard. You know, we don't sit back and wait for anything to happen. The only thing that happens when you wait is nothing. So we're going for it.
Well, is there anything?
If people want to see any of that stuff, they just go to John Schneider Studios on Facebook and like the page. It's so important these days that you like the page. And then kick the tires around. Click shop now and see what you find at the store. We've got great stuff. It seems to skew cinematically. It seems to skew horror comedy or horror or revenge comedy or unusual looks at what did somebody say? We were the champions of the disenfranchised. So we do movies that will make you laugh at things that you probably didn't think you were going to think were funny. So they're pretty cool. Four to go, Like Sun, Inadmissible, Tres Leches. Good stuff. Of course, I love it because I wrote and directed it. Alicia produces them. So I'm very, very excited about those movies. And like The Odyssey, musically, one of these movies is going to get traction and turn into, who knows, maybe Paranormal Activity or the Blair Witch Project or Little Miss Sunshine, and we don't have to always be dark. Little Miss Sunshine, or one of those little engines that could.
Yep.
But it can't do that without the fan. So
go
folks,
check it out.
Take a look at what we're doing. Yeah, check it out. And like I said, I guarantee you that these movies have cost us a lot more than they cost you. So take a risk, take a $15 or $19 risk, or just rent it. Take a $4 risk, and see what Anderson Bench is all about. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Well, John, I know you got to wrap up. You got to go. I just want to, again, say thank you. I really appreciate you, taking the time to, sit down and speak with me here at.
You're very welcome, Pat.
I appreciate it at Pop Culture with Pat, and I wish you the best. With John Schneider Studios, with both of you guys, and I look forward to hopefully talking to you again.
Me too. Go on to the site, kick the tires, see what's there.
Will do.
All right, my friend.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.